Hi, I am Opal Mitchell. I work for the Central Arkansas Library System and I work at the Nixon branch in Jacksonville. This is a Crafting with Opal program I do on Thursday nights at 7. Tonight I'm going to be showing you how to sew an envelope pillow. I'm trying to think of, it's a nice little thing to learn for like say throw pillows that you have on your sofa, or that you even throw pillows on your bed. It's just a way of making them, I don't know, seasonal if you want to. Change them up so you can have different covers for them, like maybe for the fall, for the winter, Christmas, or Halloween, different holidays even if you wanted to. It's a really simple one to do. You can also make them with zippers, but this one I like because it comes off easy and you just wash it and so forth. But you can just kind of jazz up any throw pillows you have with this particular pattern. The one I did as an example is a Halloween one. Let me show you really quick. Now the reason why it's got buttons and stuff on it is, well, I need to have that further away so you can see. This middle section I did a long time ago for another program that I did at the library. It's been quite a few years ago that I did it, but I was teaching them how to do embroidery, and like a little tree with some embroidery, simple embroidery stitches with buttons, and I chose to do Halloween buttons on mine. Now these Nightmare Before Christmas buttons that are down here at the bottom and up here, I added those before I turned this into a pillow, but this was just a basic design that I did for that, and a lot of the people that did it in my class, we did it on felt and they framed it in like a little picture frame. I had done mine on fabric because I had intended to eventually make like a pillowcase of some kind with it. So that part was made quite a few years ago, and it's been sitting in my craft room for that long. And so I finally decided I would turn it into my little pillowcase that I was wanting to do. And I took some Nightmare Before Christmas fabric for the top and the bottom, and then also just some Halloween fabric that I found for the sides. I wanted to do kind of a quilted look to it, and that's why I decided to do it that way. And then the back, you can see, is where the envelope part comes into play, how they named it. It's like almost like an envelope the way it covers up. If I had tried harder, I could have matched up this fabric where it would have been seamless, where you wouldn't have been able to see that there was a actual seam here. I could have worked on it more where the actual pattern didn't overlap, where you could see it, where it matched up perfectly. But I decided I didn't really care if it matched up or not, because this is the back side and I don't plan on this side being really seen anyway, so I didn't worry too much about it. And the one, oops, I just knocked a pin on the floor. I'll show you how it works. This is just a pillow form that I got from Walmart. So it's just a plain pillow to begin with. And then this is my pillowcase that I made. But I'm going to make a different one tonight to show y'all. I'm going to make a real simple fall one. But that's the one I made previously. But you can do, as long as you've got a pillow and you measure it, and it's, you can follow these measurements on this pattern that, if you want this pattern, you can always ask for it from the library. It's something I got off of a website, and she did a really cool chart where you just look to see what size pillow your pillow is. And these are just some standard sizes that she chose, or I guess had found. And she shows you what measurements, how much. Most of them you're going to add just a ½ inch. And then for the back pieces, you'll cut 2 of them. And it kind of gives you an idea of what sizes. So if you're following this tonight and you've got one of these sizes, I'm going to leave this up here for a few moments so you can kind of write down what you're going to need in order to cut it out. If you missed this and you watch this later and would like the actual directions, I would be happy to email them to you if you'd like to call the library and ask for it. Like I said, I got it from a website, and unfortunately, let me double check. I don't seem to have the actual web address on here. So I had a coworker that told me she had a pillow she thought was about a 10 by 10 or a 9 by 9, and I just told her just add a ½ inch to the square part for the front, and then on her, since she was going down, like this was the same but 1 inch bigger, I told her we went down like on the 10 by 10, I think we went down to like 8 on this one, possibly, or I can't remember exactly. Maybe it was 11 by 11, I can't really remember. But we just went down an inch or so size for that. You just want the pieces to overlap. So that's that part. I hope I left that up there long enough for you guys to get the measurements. I'm going to move this out of the way too. And I'll show you what I decided to choose from tonight. Oops. Raise this up a little bit more. I decided to go with some fall fabric for this one instead of a Halloween one. I have some Christmas stuff, but I decided not to do the Christmas fabric tonight. I'll probably go back and do that later because I'd like to be able to do mine for Christmas too. I had a bunch of fat quarters, so mine's going to be kind of a scrappy kind of pillowcase cover. This is not all going to match. My front cover, I'm going to just go with this because that's what I want on the front of it. And then on the back, I'm going to go half with this and then half with this. I just decided to kind of have fun with it to make it a little bit different looking, instead of going with all the same color fabric. And, you know, you can kind of play with it and do whatever you want. It's meant to be able to work with it. This particular pattern doesn't go one direction necessarily, so this one won't really matter as far as how I cut it. Now, if you have fabric that is got a design that goes in a certain direction, you'll need to follow that whenever cutting it to make sure that it will go the direction you want. And let me show you the directions that the person did that I followed. She did a neat thing where she took the piece that was on the front actually had a photo on it, which was really cool. And so she cut that out as her front piece, and then she used just colorful pieces that had some of the same colors in it for her back. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. Just kind of try to show you there. Alright, so for my front piece, I need, my form pillow is a 16 by 16. So for this piece, I'm going to need to cut it 16.5 by 16.5. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to start with one edge of this and just kind of cut it to, I'm going to put this off to the side at an angle. I found this kind of worked better last time when I did this. Trying to make sure I'm keeping this towards the middle to make sure that it doesn't get cut off in the video. And I'm going to try to line this up a little bit with my, I'm going to move it to the edge here. I want to get a straight line on this edge because I don't feel like that's going to exactly be a straight edge, so I want to start with a straight edge on my fabric. So I'm just going to line this up. Make sure that looks kind of straight. And be careful with your rotary cutters, because I was using mine at work. Was it yesterday? It was yesterday, yeah. And I just went to push it to the side, and the blade was sticking out whenever, and I sliced my finger. But luckily, it seems to be doing okay now. It was bleeding a lot. because it's just such a usually pretty sharp edge. And normally rotary cutters cut better than this, but if you're cutting at an angle like I am, then you're going to not get it cut quite as well, because it's not gonna, it's meant for you to stand right over it and do it as pressure straight across. Alright, I'm gonna turn this and use that as my bottom straight edge. And so this is a 0, and I want to go to 16, which is way over here where y'all can't see. So I'll move the camera again, but I'm gonna line my straight edge up with the bottom here, and then see how this goes up and it's not lined up, but down here it is. So you never can trust the way that the fabric was cut. So you always want to make sure that you straighten everything out to make sure that you're working with straight edges. Okay, so I'm going to be cutting off quite a bit more. Let's see, there we go. So now I'm going to straighten this other side. And then once I get these two, I'm going to figure out what my 16, because my way over here is my 16.5, and I still have quite a bit of fabric that direction, so I know that I'm not going to be cutting myself short by doing this. So probably should get my marker out of the floor that I knocked down there a minute ago. I'm not sure if I'm going to be using it yet or not. I might be just using my rotary cutter mostly and might not need it. If you don't have a rotary cutter, then all you have to do is take one of these water-soluble markers and just use your ruler to mark off your whatever size piece of fabric that you need, and then you'll cut it out. I like using the rotary cutter because I've got all these mats that help me measure out everything, so I don't have to draw on it and then cut it. I can just cut it. I wonder if nope, still didn't get it this time. I swear, going at an angle just does not work. Let's see. Oh, almost. Okay, so now I got two straight edges, and so mine's going to be like 16.5 this way and 16.5 this way. So I'm going to move this more at an angle and tilt it up just a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing. Alright. I think that's, well, I still don't know if y'all can see everything, so I'm going to, I want to make sure that y'all can. Alright, so, okay, so I was talking about my 16.5 is going to be about here, and then my other 16.5 is going to be about here. I have found when I'm cutting, and if I cut it from that edge, it's the best. So when I turn this one, I'm going to pull it off the side until, because I know these two edges, this one and this one, are straight. So I'm going to pull this off here, and I'm going to use this ruler just to make sure, because this is 16.5, I want to make sure I'm getting it not quite. Alright, so there's my 16.5, I want to make sure, and then that way, smooth it out, and then it moved just a tiny bit. It's shifted that direction too. I'm going to smooth my fabric out again. You want to get it as close as possible. Alright, so I'm going to step in front of the camera. I think I'm going to block stuff while I'm doing this. But I'm just getting this lined up with this, and my fabric comes all the way over here, which is the 16.5. And I'm going to cut, and then I'll only have that edge to cut once. I get this one. I stood right over it, but I'm still, I noticed I did not stay really close to my edge over here, so I have, I must have moved when I was coming down. I didn't stay right next to the edge of my ruler there. So, alright, so now I only have one more edge to cut off. So I got 3 of my corners. So I'm just turning it, and here's my 16 and a half. And make sure 16 and a half there. And then I can see my half mark up there too, so it looks like I did a pretty good job of keeping it at 16 and a half. Alright. Pull the fabric down. Alright. This will probably be a pretty quick project. Still didn't get it, did I? And I thought I was standing over it better. Okay, so now I have my main piece. Get my stuff out of the floor there. I didn't have, since this is a fat quarter, I ended up with not that much fabric left over. I'm going to throw that away. And I'll keep that one over there in case I need something to practice with to make sure that my sewing machine is set correctly. So I know that this piece is 16 and a half by 16 and a half. So this will be my front piece, and I'm just going to lay that over there. Alright, for the back pieces, I'll refer to this again. For the back piece, oh, I must be bleeding again. Yep. Well, no. Okay. At that little place that I had cut myself yesterday, looked like it tried to bleed a little bit. So my back 2 pieces, I needed to have 2 of them that are 16 and a half by 11. So I'm going to do a similar thing with this piece, because I'm going to use 2 different pieces for my back, 2 different patterns. So I'll do the same thing I did with the other one. I'm going to straighten my edge to start with, because you can never count on these to be straight when they're cut, because they don't try to cut this stuff straight whenever they're being made. I thought I got that one, but maybe not. Oh, and I need to stop and look at the comments real quick, because I always forget that on Facebook that the comments don't always want to work. Yeah, there's no comments right now, and I'm sure some people have said stuff, and it's just not showing them. Oh, okay. See, Jonna was watching. Oh, that's great. Okay, Jonna, Shay, they waved at me, so at least I know they were watching at some point. I don't know if they're still watching or not. Oh, I think Jonna is, it looks like. Well, hey, you guys. Thanks for coming by to see what's going on. I just hate that the comment thing doesn't work very well on Facebook anymore. Whenever you're doing a live video, I just don't understand why they can't seem to get that fixed. Alright, so you always want to start with at least two edges that are straight before you start trying to actually measure it, or whatever measurements that you're wanting to do. And see, this one's way off. See, down here I've got like almost like 1 inch down here, and up there it's barely like 1/4 of an inch. So it's definitely something you have to fix when you're cutting out your stuff. Alright, Lucy Goosey, what are you eating? One of my dogs came in here chewing on something. I hope it was food. I hope it wasn't a toy. She sometimes eats her toys, the stuff in her toys. Okay. Alright, so now that I got two straight edges, mine needs to be 16.5 by 11. So, now that I got my straight edges, I want a 16.5. Let's see here. So I'm going to measure this out across here. So I want it to be at least 16.5 this way. And then I'm going to cut it off where it's 11 inches. It's going to be 16.5 inches this way and then 11 inches this way. So, alright, now I've got it measured out where I'm going to cut this edge off, where it's going to be 16.5 this direction. And this fabric I'm cutting actually has lines in it. Don't ever trust your fabric that has lines in it to be straight lines, because a lot of times they'll look straight, but then, and these I think might be, but then when you start working with it and actually measuring it, you can find out that it's not always as straight as it looks. Okay, so we're going to remember this is 16.5. And then this direction I want it to be 11 inches, so I need to slide this off this direction. So, and I'll look, I have my numbers on this side. It's 17 here, and that's 17 or 16.5. So, and then I've got my 11 inches this direction. So this piece will be correct. Alright. And it looks pretty straight, the lines on this fabric, but like I said, you don't want to ever totally trust that. I know the waves that were on the pillowcase that I had made for the Nightmare Before Christmas pillowcase, they looked straight to the way the waves were done, but then once I started actually messing around with it and trying to line it up with my rulers, it wasn't straight. It can be kind of an illusion of that sometimes. So, alright, so I'm going to be doing another piece. That's 16.5 by 11. So I'm going to start with a straight edge of my fabric here. And just cut that off. Let's see here. I wonder, oh, I got some doggies in here I'm having to avoid. Hey, and Jonna waved at me. And also, I'm looking at the camera again just to see if any of y'all are following along and you have any questions about this, just feel free to make a comment. I'm going to try to come back and forth and look at the screen to see if y'all have any questions. If you even if you're not following along, like if you're not understanding something about this while I'm doing it, just let me know. I will try to stop and look at the comments, so if you have any questions, I can maybe hopefully answer them. Let's see. Oh, Marion. Hi, Marion. So, there we go. I'm going to get a straight edge on this other side. And then, wow, this one's barely, I might go ahead, well, no, that's not a straight edge. It's not a good idea. I was going to go ahead and cut it off, but my other edge that I have over here is not straight. So, before I start really cutting to the size I want, I want to have two really good straight edges before I do that, because that can mess you up sometimes. And that doesn't want to move with the ruler on top of it. And I'll tell you, these types of, this ruler that I have it laying on and the ruler that I'm using to line up stuff to cut it, and they come in handy. This is stuff that people use who are quilters, but just regular sewing, if you want straight edges, this is the way to go. And honestly, what I did, this type of stuff can be quite expensive, but Joann's generally has 40% off coupons you can use on a one item, or even 50% off ones. And when I bought this mat right here, I bought it from Joann's with, I think I had a 50% off coupon. So this is a rather large rotary cutting mat. It measures out to 35 inches. And I think normally it ran for, I forget, it was quite expensive. But with the 50% off coupon, it really wasn't that bad. I really glad that I got it, because it comes in handy and it makes a lot of this type of cutting really a lot easier. And once you get comfortable with using a rotary cutter, that really helps out a lot too. In the beginning, when the first few times I tried to do anything with a rotary cutter, I had a lot of trouble with it, but it really does take practice. So I would try cutting out little small things first with it until you got comfortable with it, because if you do, you can cut down on a lot of time on cutting out your project before putting it together, which is nice when you're sewing, you know, because you spend most of your time measuring and cutting and not as much time sewing usually. Alright, so I'm going to look at this again. This was the piece that I was doing the 16.5 this direction, so I want to make sure I keep 16.5 this direction. It's this direction that I want it to be 11 inches, so I'm going to pull this off to the side to the 11 mark here, and if I want to double check it, since I've already and then up here is my 17, so it's at the half mark underneath it, so that's 16.5. But I have another piece that I already cut. I could just lay it on top to double check myself to make sure they measure the same. But I've got this here, so it helps me. And I guess if I wanted to, I could have cut them at the same time, maybe. And that's what I used to do. I would take my two pieces that were going to be the same, lay them on top of each other, measure out what I wanted, and pin them together, and then cut them out, you know, with the scissors. And I'd cut them out at the same time. I don't know that you could do that with a rotary cutter. I guess you could, but since I'm having to do so many sides and stuff, it might be a little bit harder. Okay. And you always want to be really careful about doing your cutting part, because if you cut something wrong, which I've done before, if you don't have extra fabric, then you've messed up and you have to go get more fabric. Okay, so this is going to be my back pieces. Let me grab all my pieces again. And mine are going to be two different ones. I decided I was okay with that. So these are my two back pieces. They both measure 16 by 11. And this is going to be my front piece for it. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to get my iron, and I'm going to fold one edge of this so I can, and I'm going to iron it down whenever I fold it. I'm going to be doing it to both of these pieces, and it's going to be the long edge that I'm going to fold, not the short edge. So my 16.5 side is what I'm going to fold under, and I'm going to iron it down. Is what I'm going to do. So, and we're going to fold it by about 1/4 of an inch. You're going to fold it and you're going to iron it, and then I'm going to fold it a second time, which I wonder if I could do it. Probably not. Let me see if I can get my iron. My iron hasn't been used for a few minutes, so it's probably cooled off. I'm going to scoot everything over because that's dangerously close to the edge. Okay. And I'll show you a little bit better. So we're going to just, if you're not real sure if that's 1/4 of an inch, I've got a neat little, my mom always used this for, she always did clothes that she made clothing a lot for people and for me whenever me and my siblings when we were younger. But this is a nice little tool that you can move it to the point because where you want it, that's 1/4 of an inch. A lot of times once you get used to stuff, you can kind of eyeball stuff, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But if you really want to be precise, you can use something like this, and you can put the edge of the fabric here and then the folded part there. And so you can get a better idea to make sure that especially if your measurements have to be precise. But I'm not particular about this being precise, so just as long as, oops, I'm steaming, and I'm kind of getting off a little bit because I'm doing this at an angle. Let's see. Just want to fold it all the way across. Kind of get it somewhat. Oh, I see. I think I was doing it right. It's just that I was trying to follow the lines of the fabric, and the lines of the fabric are not straight, so that's why it wasn't looking right to me. And the way that I cut it too. So we're just going to fold this over twice. Once you kind of get one edge of it, the second time is not so bad. I'm going to angle this. Alright. So this is, oops, I'm trying to do this at a weird angle. And if you want to fold it over just a little bit more, you can. There's nothing wrong with that. This is just going to be the edge that's going to be showing. My iron is not steaming up like it usually does. So it's not doing as good of a job. I wonder why. Did I change my setting on it or something? Does not want to lay down good for me. Let's see. Hey Terry, I see that you're watching. I almost didn't feel like doing this tonight, Terry. I came really, really close to getting on camera and saying I felt too bad to do my program tonight. I wasn't really sure how to cancel a program that was a live program, since I'm the only one that can do it. But I felt pretty horrible until about 30 minutes beforehand. But I took some more Tylenol, and my headache finally decided to give me a break after hurting all day today. Ooh. Okay. Oops. I shouldn't have. And I really should be just pressing this instead of moving across it. There we go. Now it's going to steam for me. Yay. It does a better job when it starts steaming it. I think my settings are set on the steam press, but I think my iron is not acting like it should be anymore. I think it's not quite working correctly, but alright, and this is my other piece that's going to be on the back side. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to press. I wonder if I can do it all at once instead of having to do it twice. You're just going to, I keep doing that. I do this and then I want to reach over with my other hand. Let's see. I'm going to do an angle here. See if that'll help. But I'm just folding it under twice and doing about a, not a ½ inch, but around a 1/4 of an inch fold on it. I am not getting very straight on this. I could probably have better control over it if I went ahead and actually stuck with doing a little bit at a time instead of trying to hurry up and do a bunch of it at a time. And actually measuring it too. Yeah, I don't like that. I do not like that. I'm going to start over. Because I wasn't getting it straight. I'm going to slow down and actually do this right. My first part looked good. It's just whenever I got to the middle here, I wasn't doing it as tight. Oops. And I unfolded that. It got a little too big in the middle here. There we go. So about a 1/4 of an inch and you're folding it twice. Yeah. Okay, and once we get, we'll just iron this down and then I'll actually sew it. And then once I've got the edge sewn down on both pieces, then we will put them together with all 3 pieces together, and then we'll sew all the way around, which is pretty easy to do. Alright, so we've got those, and almost done. Let's see, I'm going to tilt this back up while I move over here to the sewing machine now that I'm bumping into the sewing machine, or the table to the sewing machine. And move some of my cords out of the way. Alright, so here is this part. And I'm going to look at my settings real quick. Yeah, the last time I sewed, I was sewing with cotton fabric, but it is always a good idea to test it. So I'm going to find a piece of test fabric. I've got some right there. And then I'm going to bring over my fabric that I'm going to be sewing on over here. Let me get that. Alright, so what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to make sure, because I've changed out my thread on the sewing machine, and I want to make sure that everything's going to sew, and this is correctly, and I've just got a piece of fabric that's similar to what I'm going to be working with, and I'm going to set it down there. And I'm also looking at the setting on my machine here. I think, okay, I'm going to start with it in the fabric. You know, it would help if I turned it on, huh? I have all these lights on over here. I thought the light was on my machine, but it wasn't. Okay, so I did a little bit of a test run there. And the fabric, or the thread I'm working with, is like actually variegated, so it's different colors. So I just want to make sure that everything looks, yep, this looks like the tension's good on that, so I'm gonna not change anything, and I'm going to line up my fabric with the edge of my sewing foot there, and I'm going to kind of lower my needle to see where it's going to hit on my fabric. And that's a good spot. I like where it's going to be hitting on that one. So, oh, Myra's watching. Hi, how are you doing? So I'm going to start there, and I'm going to reverse first to the edge, and we're just going to be sewing this down. It's real simple. Trying to keep everything lined up. And it's easy just to keep it lined up with this edge of my sewing foot. And I'm not pinning anything down because my iron did a pretty good job of making my fabric stay in place. And always when you get to the end, you want to reverse to reinforce. And then sew off the edge of your fabric. Okay. So I got that one, and I'm going to grab my scissors and cut off the excess thread. So I'll show you what. So you don't really, since I'm using thread that's similar color to what I'm working with, see, this is variegated, so it's a lighter color on that side and it's darker over here. But as you go along, you'll see different colors in it. I just thought since this fabric was different colors, it'd be kind of neat to use the variegated thread on the fabric there. And then my other edge is, I've decided to use a different color, or a different pattern even for each edge. So this is my other one. And this one, I also want to start with it in the fabric. Oops. And it's the same thing. I'm just keeping it lined up with my sewing foot there, and making sure that my needle is not going to go off the side of my fabric there. And this is why I like ironing just whenever I'm sewing. I don't like to iron a lot of my clothes, but I always like to iron my projects I'm working on because it makes sewing so much easier if you do. Everything just goes much better if your fabric is nice and flat. And I'm just clipping off the excess threads. Alright, so, and you can see on this one too, I moved around a little bit so it's not real straight. I was in a bit of a hurry there. But, so you can see that this is different colors too on the edges here, because I use the variegated. It's mostly one color, but when you get to the end, you can see it's a lighter color. Alright, so now we're just going to be putting it together. So, I'm just going to tilt it a little bit. And you're going to put your right sides together. So this is my one side. And I'm going to move that out of the way. So I'm going to move this up just a tad bit so y'all can see a little bit better. Hopefully what I'm doing. Move it maybe up some more. Sometimes this stand does not want to cooperate. Okay, that's a tiny bit better. Maybe back it up. Aha, I think that works. Okay, So this is, that's the wrong side, so I said the right side. So this is my right side. And with my other pieces, I'm going to do the same thing. So this is the sewn edge. So I want it to be in the middle. So you're going to line it up, and this is where I'm going to actually pin it into place. So you want to get all your corners to line up. This is really hard standing behind the camera doing this. Let's see. And this is just my first piece. I've got two pieces, so I'm going to have to lay that other one down too. But I got to get this one lined up first with it. Okay. So that one's there. And then I'm going to get my top one and line it up with my corners too. And it's going to overlap the other one. So that's what you're going to end up with. Your corners are going to be all lined up. My top one's going to be lined up with my top corners. My bottom one is going to be lined up with my bottom corners. So see, we've got them all lined up. If you look at them, well, that one's not. That's another thing you gotta double check yourself and make sure. So especially if you did correct measurements, it should line up better than that. So let me make sure. Well, because you want it to line up. Yep, I didn't quite. I was off by just a tad. So I'm gonna pull on that just to make sure. It sure does seem like it doesn't want to line up for me. I'm going to try that again. Alright, because you do want them to be as close as possible. Okay, I think that one's a little bit better than it was before. And I'm double checking my top to make sure. And then I'll pin it once it is lined up more. I think that's a little bit better. Alright, so now that I've gotten my back pieces lined up, I'm just going to go around and I'm going to make sure that I pin right around where the overlap is at, because I do want to make sure that that is pinned in place, and then I'll get my corners. And you're pinning all the way through, all 3 layers. And then my other piece is right here. I want to also pin that into place, because those are the spots where you want to kind of reinforce when you're sewing, because when you're taking your pillow in and out of this case, you want to make sure that those areas are reinforced, because you're going to be pulling at those edges a lot whenever you're taking it on and off your pillow. So that's you definitely want to back up and stitch extra, double up on those sections right there. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Sometimes when I might not be real good about explaining, it may not make a whole lot of sense. Whoops. Do not think. I got 2 pieces of fabric there. That, and I'm going to make sure I get the bottom pinned. Oh, my dog has been, or one of them has been playing with my house shoes. Let's not do that. I don't want you tearing up my house shoes now, girls. And that wouldn't be good. Alright, so now that I've pinned all the way around the edges, now we're just going to sew. Alright, so that looks good. I'm going to move back over here to the sewing machine and lower this and tilt it up a little bit. And lower it some more so we can get over here closer to the sewing machine. So, since I said that I wanted to double up around the edges where this is one of the edges that's got the little flap, so I'm going to start in front of it, but a little bit from it. Let's see, I guess I'll start a little ways back from it, from about there. Alright. And we're going to start with backing up. Just any stitches whenever you first start, you always want to back up a little bit. Alright, and then this is my piece that I want to go over a couple of times. Let me tilt that so you can see that a little bit better. One of my dogs wanted up in her bed, so I had to move her real quick so she quit making noises. So if you need to mark it somehow, do that so you won't forget. So, but you'll feel it when you're going over it because usually your machine makes more noises. Mine's not though for some reason. So, alright, so now I'm going to back up and just completely reverse over that whole section and then go back over it again. You just want to get that good reinforced. Alright, so I'm going to move my pen out of the way. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to sew over it, and then I'm going to reinforce it by going back over it again. When you get to your corner, let's see how close here. I think one more and I'll get closer to what I want. And there's a way to reinforce your corners too. In the handout that I have, I'll show you. I'm going to turn my corner. Let me grab it real quick so I can show you. You could also, I'm not going to reinforce mine, but you can always do it yourself if you'd like to. This is an example of how she did hers. So she sewed her corner and then she went back at the end and I'm going to clip my corners. After she clipped hers, she sewed back and forth over that corner to reinforce it. That's optional if you would like to do that. I'm not really worried about it, so I'm not going to do that on mine. And another thing that you can do, if you don't want to just sew the fabric just straight the way you're doing it, you can use interfacing also to make the pillowcase sturdier. And you can use the kind of interfacing that's got the kind of like the little glue dots on it, and when you put it down on your the wrong side of your fabric, you would put the interfacing on this side that's wrong side, and you would iron that in place. And what it does is it makes the fabric a little bit thicker and sturdier. I'm not real concerned about that, so I'm not doing that with mine, but that's something that you can also do, which would probably not be a bad idea if you want it to be a sturdier pillowcase. And with this pillowcase, we're not going to have to worry about leaving an opening. You know how when you, most of the time, whenever you're sewing something that you have to turn inside out, or have it inside out and turn it right side out, you have to leave a spot, a hole to turn it right side out. Well, this has already got its hole because it's an envelope pillowcase, so you don't have to worry about that with this one. Okay, and I'm getting to my corner here. Let's see. If you're not real sure, when I want to make sure I have, yeah, I'll turn it and see if it looks, if I got it lined up or not. Always leave your needle in your fabric when you're turning it, because that keeps everything lined up nice and straight. Okay, now I'm coming to one of the flaps again. So I'm going to go back over it and reverse over it. And just make sure it's nice and reinforced. My other flap is hidden. Let's see. Oh, there it is. It's by this needle. So I'm going to reinforce that area too. Okay, I just went over it, so now I'm going to reverse. Okay. And that's really the hardest part of this. The rest of this is just going around the edges. Okay, got to my other corner. And the neat thing about this, you can do all kinds of different types. You could, once you got the basic down, if you wanted to do, I had thought about doing this for my Christmas one. I have some different Nightmare Before Christmas fabric, about instead of having a plain front cover or piece to the front, of taking two of them and making smaller squares and having 4 different squares on the front. Of course, there's a little more math involved in that, as far as making sure that you leave enough for, oops, I didn't go quite to the edge, enough for your seams. You always want to keep in mind, if you do something like that, whatever size seams you're going to have. So if I'd done something like that, I would have had to add, I had to keep in mind that the squares that I was cutting, besides measuring a total of 16.5 by 16.5, I would have also had to take into account the 2 seams that I was going to be sewing in the middle, because I had to do that on the Halloween one that I did, since it was more of a quilted. Alright, I've made it back around to where I was sewing earlier. I'm going to go over it just a little bit, and then I'm going to back up to reinforce it, and then we'll turn it right side out and have a look. Actually, I'll have to cut my corners too, so I'm going to show you. We'll do that real quick. So let's get my threads cut. Oh, let me get some more light here. I like to have as much light as possible whenever I'm sewing. Okay, there's another little thread. Where'd you come from, dude? Oh, there we go. Alright, so I'm going to cut my corners. I'm going to have to move this because I can't get my hand around. Alright, so I'm going to get close to the corner. That's where I've sewn. But I'm going to cut that off. I'm not going to reinforce my corners. Like I said, that's an option if you'd like to do that. Okay, so now I got the corners cut. We're almost done, and I'm going to get that pillow form. And you can buy these pillow forms at Walmart, or I'm sure Joann's also sells them. I haven't ever looked for them there before, but I'm positive they've got them. They've got all kinds of sewing type stuff. So we just right around the and I've got a little point turner I'm going to use for that instead of my finger, and just push out your corners real good so you have nice sharp corners. This is my other corner. If you have knitting needles work too. Just be kind of careful not to poke it through the fabric. Alright, so there's that. And now I gotta go to the other corners because we got 4 of them. And when you cut that excess fabric, it allows you to have a lot better corners to it. Oh, I guess I did that one. So which one did I not do? Aha, I see now. This one. Alright. I believe I got my corners pushed out. So let me push this out so I can put it on my pillowcase. Raise this up a little bit. And push everything back so you can see. And these are kind of like if you buy a bedding set that comes with some things that you can put on your pillows to all have everything matched up. Kind of works the same way. Just got to have your pillow straight in there for it to work. Alright, so that's, I don't think I pushed mine all the way in that corner there. But see, that's how it's going to look on one side. You're going to have, since I went with the 2 different fabrics, it looks different on that side. But see, there we go. I have a nice little fall pillow, throw pillow. And you could have used all the same fabric for the entire thing if you wanted, but and that's it. That's how all it is to that. I'll show again. This is the original one that I had done that had, you can do different ways. This one is more of, oops, didn't mean to step on that. This is more of something that would be more quilted, because I did a separate piece down here and a piece down there, and then different pieces on the sides, and then I had this middle section that I did. I did it all solid, the same fabric in the back, but I didn't match up the pattern necessarily. But that's all there is to that. Next, I'm trying to think, what am I doing? It'll be next month. The next time I do this, oops. Oh, it's having me do another comment. I didn't mean to do a comment. I guess I'll have to write a comment because it's not making me, letting me. There we go. I'll just do hi. Okay, I meant to hit the button to reverse the camera instead of making a comment. So next week, yeah, I think I'm going to be doing it's going to be a crochet and knitting class. I don't know if you've ever seen the, what are they? The frilly scarves that, they used to be really popular. Actually, I've got some. in my closet. It's made out of this lacy type of, they call it yarn, but it's real lacy looking yarn that you can either crochet it into a scarf or knit it into a scarf, and it's really frilly, and it's actually kind of warm too. Let me grab one. Actually, I've got several. My sister made me some. There's different types of yarn. This one's a little more compact. It's a smaller type of yarn. And then there's other kinds like this. This will be more like what we'll be giving away in our, if you come by the library to get supplies for the program. This will be similar to what we'll be handing out. It won't have the little bumpy pieces on the ends, but it will be lacy, big and lacy like this. And I'll show you how to either crochet it or knit it into a scarf. Wow, let's see, how many of these do I have? Well, my sister made me two of the blue ones, so I've got a couple of those. So I'll show you how to make those next week, and I think the 2 weeks after those I'll be showing you. Oh, Jonna, thank you. I like the way the patterns blend. Oh, thank you. I have a couple of sewing projects, and I'm trying to remember which ones I'm going to be doing. Oh, Zoe, come here. We're almost done. She's fussing at me. Actually, I guess it's good you came over here. I think one of the projects I'm going to do next month that's sewing is a way of taking old blue jeans and turning them into a dog toy, like a little bone-shaped dog toy. And then there was something. Oh, okay. The other. Oh, wait. I actually have the patterns here. The other one's going to be a neat looking thing that you can make that's round, that you can sew. It's called a tortilla shell warmer, I think is what it is. And it's the way that it's made, you just put your tortilla shells inside of it and you can heat them up in the microwave. And that was a neat little thing that I ran across. And then I think towards the end of the month we'll do like a sewing, or not a sewing, but another painting, another painting class, but this one won't have Q-tips involved in it. It'll just be a regular painting class, I think, with some flowers. So that's what we'll be doing next month. And we don't have any more giveaways because I'm done with my giveaways because it was for Summer Reading Club, and even though they're kind of extending Summer Reading Club, they didn't really give me any more money for prizes. So I wish I could continue to give some prizes away, but oh well. Yeah, I knew that would end eventually. But that's all I'm going to be doing later on. Next Friday, it will be the first Friday of the month, and I've been trying to do a new program on the first Friday of every month at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's called First Friday Crafts. I plan on either doing a little more embroidery, or if I can work it out, I'm trying to get one of my coworkers to maybe do a needle felting program for me instead for the First Friday craft. But we'll see. I was talking to her about it today, and she's not scheduled to work that day, so if we can rearrange her schedule, then we'll do needle felting next Friday at 10. If not, I'll do some more what is it, the embroidery stitches, basic embroidery stitches. Oh, thank you, Imogene. She said she liked the way it turned out. Yeah, I like to show different ways of, not the typical ways of doing things, but some different variations, so you can see that you can play around with patterns and do different things beyond what is showed to you originally. Alright, well, I know this one's, I got done a lot faster than I usually do, so that's going to be it for tonight. And I'll see you next Thursday if you come around to see me for the crochet and knitting class for the little scarves. And you can, like I said, you can sign up for free supplies for that. So if you don't have any of that yarn and you don't have a knitting needles or crochet hook, but you would like to, then just call the library to sign up for supplies. Starting tomorrow, I should have the sign-up sheet available for that. Alright, well, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.